Good afternoon and welcome everybody to the first session of the Digital Classicist London seminar. For those of you who have never been here before, this is essentially a physical and virtual space that take place every summer to explore broadly conceived classical research conducted on and with digital methods. So over the next couple of months, we are going to have lots of talks and speakers from all around the world. And today we are absolutely delighted to have Panagiota Sarischouli, Professor of Papyrology at the University of Thessaloniki, who is here on behalf of her team to talk about their database project NOMINA, Names and Orality in Magic in Antiquity. The project primary objective is to digitize the entire corpus of magical formulae, or voces magicae, attested in our epigraphical and pyrological documentation, which will obviously improve dramatically our understanding of magical practices and also of these texts which are largely unknown. So given these premises and the importance of magic and magical practices, the significance of this project can hardly be overstated. So beyond NOMINA, there is a team of scholars which includes Sofia Torrallas-Tovar from the University of Chicago, who is also virtually accompanying Panagiota, and will take part in our question and answer session. Hi Sofia and welcome. Raquel Martin Hernandez from the University of Madrid, and Corsi Dosso from the University of Würzburg. The team has had 2 meetings this year, a 5-day workshop in Leiden about structuring magic towards a digital infrastructure of texts and artifacts, which brought together experts on different disciplines, including digital humanities and computational linguistics, and a second workshop in Chicago titled Voces Magicae and the Power of the Unintelligible, which discussed the use of this magical formula in Egyptian, Greco-Egyptian, Coptic, Jewish, and Arab magic, in the Apocryphal Christian text, and the Latin De Fictiones. They are also collaborating on the Transmission of Magical Knowledge project led by Sofia and Chris Faraone, also from Chicago, and which inspired the NOMINA database. And just a last quick note to those who are joining us on YouTube, if you have any questions or any notes, feel free to use the chat box, and we will rely then on to our speakers. If you are following us live, if you are not, the seminar is being recorded, so it will be permanently available on our YouTube channel. So welcome all of you. And without further ado, I'll hand over to our speaker.
So good afternoon all. First of all, I would like to thank Marco for his kind words and the Digital Classicist seminar for inviting me to speak on the NOMINA database. I'm just delighted to be here. So as Marco already said, Sofia will also join us online, and we would both be willing to answer your questions after the presentation. Our purpose today is to give you a general overview of our approach to creating and implementing a digital glossary of voces magicae, the long strings of vowels and consonants of divine names, of secret individual words, and of fixed sequences, the so-called logoi, which from the 1st century CE on accompany the invocations in almost every magical text, are commonly known as voces magicae, literally magical voices. Voces are found on ostraca, papyri, lamella, here marked with red ink, or gems, unearthed not only from Roman or late antique Egypt, but also from other places around the Mediterranean basin, and even further beyond, up to northern Britain or the Black Sea. The number of the surviving variations among the voces magici attested in the corpus of the Greek magical papyri reaches about 4,000 words or sequences of letters. Modern scholarship has often interpreted some of the less frequently cited voces magicae as being random sequences of letters, or tried to associate others of these strange sounding words with ancient languages or scripts based on very questionable factors. Surprisingly enough, the exact meaning of most voces appears to have been unknown already to ancient compilers and users of magical recipes and activated texts, who most often regarded them as exotic words of power. And yet the question remains, since most of the surviving voces magicae were unintelligible not only to modern but also to ancient readers, what was the purpose of their usage, and how can we explain their popularity in such a broad audience? Contemporary scholarship agrees with ancient interpreters in a basic principle. The utterance of foreign or strange-sounding words may reflect the human desire to transcend ordinary speech and imitate the speech of the gods in order to create an encoded communication with them. So it's a kind of a code language. As you can see on the screen, I have divided my presentation today into three main points. I will start off with the state-of-art development of lexicographical studies on voces magicae. Hitherto, our main tool for the lexicographical study of the magical words attested in the corpus of the Greek magical papyri has been William Brashear's 27-page long glossary of voces magicae, which forms part of his informative survey of Greco-Egyptian magical papyri. A page of this glossary you can see on the screen. While the author's diligence must be admired, the accuracy of many of Brashear's lexicographical suggestions have been rightly debated in recent scholarship. Nonetheless, Brashear's work provides a reliable starting point for further research into the field. An excellent study of the meaning of magical words attested mainly in the bilingual demotic Greek magical handbooks of the early empire is that of Joachim Kvak. His work includes a 30-page long index of demotic and Greek magical words, providing etymologies and interpretations when possible, as this entry on Albanahambre serves. This word is mostly interpreted as the living heart of the god Ra, but the word still remains debated. The indices in Simon Missel's two extensive works on magical gems provide another helpful tool for the study of gems. In Missel 2004, we can find not only a glossary of common voces magicae, logoi, and palindromes as the Hebrew acronymic Abba-Nathanael palindrome, but also an alphabetical list, unfortunately without interpretations, of all voces magicae attested on published gemstones and their variations. These few works complete the picture of the state-of-art development of lexicographical studies on voces magicae. Although not exclusively related to Greco-Egyptian magic, the Cenop database a digital corpus of utterances of Barbara onomata deriving from magical, philosophical, theological, and religious writings, and used between the 6th century BCE and the 6th century CE, can also contribute to the development of a lexicographical project on magical words. Likewise, the recently published work of Pivovarczyk, examining the names of spiritual powers attested in the Nag Hammadi library against the background of texts of ritual power, may also prove helpful. A glossary is commonly defined as a list of terms in a special subject, field, or area of usage with accompanying definitions. Since most of the surviving voces remain hardly comprehensible for modern readers, the challenges for creating the voces magica glossary remain manifold. My next point is to illustrate the most important challenges we need to address. Even if they got garbled in the course of transmission, being misunderstood by the authors or the redactors of the texts, a significant number of voces can and should be identified as deriving from an ancient language or script. Nonetheless, understanding the structure of the roots of a magical word or name has proved to be anything but simple. It is often difficult to distinguish between the meaningless sequences of syllables and the words included in a long string of voces. As far as the Greco-Egyptian voces magica are concerned, their lexicographical study should consider the use of different scribal devices as an indication of their internal structures and the perception of voces as units. By the term scribal devices, we mean supralinear strokes, like these ones, gaps between sequences of letters, high dots or double strokes before or after them, or other signs separating the voces in a manuscript, as in this papyrus, in which each magical name is preceded by an accusative article, and some of them even have a Hellenized ending in on, and thus its name serves as an independent tag or aspect of the pluralistic God. It would also be very interesting to examine whether we have similar scribal devices in other traditions than Greek. Variant spellings can make different words or names evolve to seem identical, or by contrast, can make a single word or name vary enough to be mistaken as being different. This problem becomes particularly challenging in the case of terms that originate from Egyptian and Semitic languages, which are generally written without vowels, demanding the reader to vocalize the word. A solution might be to use both vocalized and non-vocalized transliterations of voces magica to allow their interdisciplinary study. A linguistic survey across corpora would shed light on the relations between word or letter strings in different languages and cultures, identifying patterns and origins. Nonetheless, we cannot ignore the problems involved in a cross-linguistic analysis of ancient writings. Gideon Bohak has rightly highlighted the modern tendency to see Hebrew everywhere. Often the authors or the redactors of the magical text just gave a Semitic flair to words created ad hoc by adding an ending in el, oth, or ath. Likewise, one may find Greek endings in Semitic magic and Jewish or Greek endings in demonic magic. Most often such words defy all analysis and their meaning, if any, cannot be recovered. The surviving instructional handbooks occasionally contain recipes which claim to interpret the listed voces or associate them with a specific national origin. While it is important to examine the reception of voces in late antiquity, we cannot ignore the fact that ancient interpretations are often ill-founded and incorrect. A fine example in which accurate explanations are mixed up with inaccurate ones is found in an instructional handbook dated to the 4th century. The text testifies to the belief that the ritual experts had the power to understand animal talk, which accords with many ancient traditions. A Greek word here, ara, curse, is explained as a word written in orneoglyphic, a curious word formed by analogy from the following hieroglyphic. Moreover, Lailam, which the author of the text understands as hieroglyphic, is actually Hebrew. Laulam means forever, while Anoch is Egyptian, meaning I am. Although there is a similar sounding Hebrew word, Hanoki, which has the same meaning. Most modern studies neglect the examination of unintelligible or rare voces in favor of those more frequently cited or better explained. Yet, even if a vox appears to be merely a random collection of syllables and or is a hapax legomenon, it would be incorrect to assume that magical power was only attributed to those words that were still worthy of being invoked more than once after several centuries. Although sometimes their original meaning may be unrecoverable, it is crucial to examine the use of voces in their current context and try to detect whether there are any discernible patterns related to the types of the procedures and their desired aims, their chronology, or the material surfaces used, whether that is papyri, lamella, or tabs. Finally, in Greco-Egyptian papyri and tabs, we are occasionally confronted with a so-called pseudo-inscriptions, in which real or simulated letters of various origins form nonsensical sequences. An example of this sort occurs in 3 divination recipes contained in a magical handbook dated to the late 2nd century CE. The practitioner is instructed to write the following signs that resemble Egyptian hieroglyphs on the wick of a lamp. In all 3 cases, the signs are closed by Coptic Bahu Si Huch, which can be translated as Da, soul of darkness, son of darkness. The so-called hieroglyphs, however, have not yet been successfully translated and seem to represent a pseudo-inscription endowed with magical properties. Unfortunately, it is mostly very difficult to discern between magical words which are unintelligible to us and the decorative use of letters to form a nonsensical sequence. While sometimes these nonsensical sequences held religious significance and have been endowed with magical or talismanic properties, at other times, such pseudo-inscriptions reflect the scribe's illiteracy. In both cases, they are to be treated separately than other magical words. Pseudo-inscriptions appear also in other traditions, as this example shows. In this case, the repeated letter combination Alif Lam is not merely a decorative device or reflection of a potter's illiteracy, but is widely known for its religious and talismanic significance. Having all these peculiarities in mind, an international research team based at the universities of Chicago, Madrid, Würzburg, and Thessaloniki will work together to design and establish the ancient orality in magic in Antiquity, the NOMINA database. Sophia Toridis, whose research focuses on Greek and Coptic magic, as well as in scribal practice, the development of book formats and readership in late antiquity. Raquel Martin Hernandez, whose research focuses in mystery religions, ancient magic and the study of images and drawings and magical artifacts. Korsi Dossel, whose research focuses on magical rituals in Greek, Demotic, and Coptic, and is currently team leader of the project, the Coptic Magical Papyri Vernacular Religion in late Roman and early Islamic Egypt, which is associated with the Kyprianos database. And myself, my current research focuses on interreligious contacts in late antiquity, are at the core of this research team. We also have the valuable support of other experts in the field, such as Ordal Paz-Saar, an expert in Jewish cultural history at the Utrecht University, and Chris Faraone, an expert in ancient Greek religion and magic at the University of Chicago, and many more colleagues from different disciplines. Sophia and Chris, as Mark also said, are the principal researchers of the Transmission of Magical Knowledge project, an effort to re-edit and retranslate a large corpus of magical handbooks from Greco-Roman Egypt, which opened paths for exploring the practices by which ancient magical knowledge was transmitted. This project, the NOMINA project, the Chicago project, has inspired the NOMINA database project. So the estimated duration of our project is 24 months, and within this time frame, the research team members will collaborate to record and study about 4,000 voces magicae, which are mainly found in Greek and bilingual, that is Demotic Greek or Coptic Greek, magical formularies and activated texts. Dating from the 1st to the 6th century CE. We will monitor our progress and, as appropriate, expand our scope to include similar material of different cultures and eras, as the example which Korsi Dossel sent me shows. Very common voces magicae in later Coptic texts dating to as late as the 10th or the 11th century. Our main goals are to explore the transculturality of the voces magicae and to evaluate their linguistic complexity. The digitized work or letter strings will be placed under 4 main categories. The first one, labeled as NOMINA, will include code or secret names or epithets of Egyptian, Greek, Hebrew, Babylonian divinities. We consider names and epithets as voces when these are incorporated within magical word strings. In the same category, we will place isopsephisms and acronyms when these are used as names. The second category, labeled as verba sententiae, will include words and phrases which are identifiable as deriving from Egyptian, Greek, Hebrew, or other ancient languages and scripts. In the same category, we will place isopsephisms and acronyms when these are used as words and not as names. The third category, labeled as vocales and consonantes, will include sequences of vowels and consonants in various permutations. And the last category, labeled as verba dubia, will include words and phrases which remain incomprehensible. In a subcategory of this group, we will place the pseudo-inscriptions discussed above. Each entry will have the following format. The vox magica will be placed in the language it appears in the text, that is Greek, Demotic Egyptian, or Coptic. The main entry will present the most common form, and variations will be linked to the main entry. Next to the vox, in its original language, the main entry will include its vocalized transliteration. In the case of terms that originate from Egyptian and Semitic languages, which are generally written without vowels, we will also add non-vocalized transliterations to allow their interdisciplinary study. In case the derivation of a certain vox is identifiable, the entry will include a reference to it, as well as to the material or the materials that the vox appears. Some voces appear only on papyri, others only on gems or on lamellae, still others on all of the above. Even though the voces appear to have been, at least originally, employed to develop an oral communication with the divine while performing a private ritual, we have good reasons to assume that the magical words were themselves considered sacred, and therefore their material form was also thought to convey divine power. Thus, while most of the Greco-Egyptian voces magicae were designed to make a strong auditory impression, many voces were designed to additionally provide the ritualist with a visual or rather material power of the words. Orality and visuality were then thought as a complementary, irreducible couple. As voces designed to deliver oral and visual perspectives, both individually and as part of the whole, are considered the palindromes, which may or may not make any sense, the isopsephistic sequences, in which the esoteric concealing of divine names in numbers and vice versa of numbers in names were thought to endow protective power, providing such sequences with an additional visual component, and even more clearly, the words or vowels, which were set in various schematic formations within the text itself. These in schematic formations include vertical lists of voces placed within or outside a magical figure, the seven-layered klima, in which vowels are arranged in slopes pointing up or down, and wing or heart formations, that is an inverted triangle in which the same word is written on each line, but one letter is being removed from either side in each successive line. Our entries will provide information on the intended visual and or auditory effects of each box, including links to images when needed. Each entry will also provide information on the interpretation of the box, if a proposal is possible or has already been made, but also information on older, less probable interpretations, linking them to the existing secondary literature and allowing the database users to locate additional information by providing links to theme-related websites. The user will also be able to find information about the occurrences of a specific box in the corpus of magical texts. Here are some examples to show how this works in a variety of situations. In the first category, that of nomina, we have Nebudo Sualeth, the name of a probably Babylonian deity, which is often found within magical word strings. In the second category, Verba Escendentiae, we have Meliouchos, probably meaning honey holder, a box which is sometimes found associated with Osiris, and at other times linked to Helios, Mithras, Zeus, and other deities. In the third category, Vocales Consonantes, we have the 7 Greek vowels linked to different images, which demonstrate that some of the Greco-Egyptian magical texts, yet not all, were designed to combine orality with materiality, metamorphosing the magical power of the text into an image. In the last category, Verba Dubia, the most problematic one, at least in terms of interpretation, we have Marmilucha, which is probably a compound of the Hebrew mar, meaning Lord, or the Aramaic mari, my Lord. The second element, lucha, remains incomprehensible, at least for now. The tasks in our project are grouped into 5 work packages, marked here with different colors, which we hope will help us to individually and collectively achieve the project's goals within the limited time of 2 years. Each work package has its own objectives, and as you can see in this Gantt chart, in which work packages are identified with the same color marking as in the previous list, most work packages will be simultaneously pursued and achieved during the entire development of the project. Among others, we intend to produce articles, books, chapters, or other publications, and to also organize an international conference on magical language. But here I will just focus on 2 work packages, which are the most relevant for the purposes of this meeting. That is work package 2, which deals with the collection and study of the material, and work package 4, which deals with the design, implementation, and maintenance of the NOMINA database. I will start with work package 2, as this is the most important part of the project. We have tried to prepare a realistic time schedule, which includes all the foreseeable stages and time restraints associated with a research project. Of course, it goes without saying that any suggestions for improvements are more than welcome. The process of work will be divided into 5 stages. In stage 1, we will focus on compiling a list of lemata based on the existing editions of Greek, Latin, Egyptian, Hebrew, Aramaic, etc., magical papyri, gems, and fictiones, either in book format or digital. In stage 2, The team will examine the lemmata in order to decide which ones may be consolidated as sublemmata of a single entry. At this stage, we will be conservative and maximize the numbers of lemmata in cases of uncertainty, including cross-referencing for each one. In stage 3, we will focus on compiling the basic bibliography for each lemma. Basic bibliography will be gathered as the list of lemmata is generated by noting discussions and references in published editions, but further research will be required in order to ensure complete bibliographical coverage. In this stage, we will examine research databases and keep journals and monographs in order to compile the fullest possible bibliographies. In stage 4, the team members will draw upon the bibliography and their own expertise to describe key features of its vox magica, discuss proposed etymologies and meanings, and propose new ones where appropriate. We will offer an assessment of the plausibility of different proposed etymologies and meanings, drawing also on the expertise of our external collaborators. As the project moves further into development, stage 5 will be of particular importance to ensure the quality of the entered data and the consistency of its formatting. Each entry will be checked by at least 3 team members before being approved. Any disagreements will be discussed in detail and resolved in our regular team meetings. Stage 1 will be completed by month 6 of the project, and stages 2 to 5 are all ongoing during the development of the project. Let me now turn to work package 4, whose main aim is to deliver a repository of digitized entries. The progress of work is here divided into 4 stages. The first stage includes the design and implementation of the website containing the NOMINA database. The website and the database will be developed mainly with the use of open source software and tools, and will be hosted on server provided by the IT Center of the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, hopefully resulting in maintaining the platform's sustainability. The NOMINA database will allow its users to search for a magical word, sequence of vowels or logos in its original language, or in transliteration, vocalized and non-vocalized, or to locate the occurrences of a word or letter string in a specific time frame. Each entry will then provide the information discussed above. The website will also allow its users to locate additional information by providing links to theme-related websites, as well as updated bibliographical references related to the study of ancient magic, notices of new articles, forthcoming publications, or meetings, conferences, congresses, events, exhibitions, and ongoing research projects. The second stage is dedicated to the development of an access protocol to the data. In the third stage, we will address the development of guidelines for the data access by external researchers. And finally, The fourth stage involves the online database maintenance and its linking with related online databases and data sources. I believe that the digital humanities experts present today will immediately notice that we have relative little experience with either the design and implementation or the maintenance of a database. Some of us have worked on fairly simple databases or had some experience with text digitization, but it certainly does not go much beyond that. Our team needs a digital humanities expert who will be responsible for building and maintaining the database schema and writing the code that interacts with the database. We also need to hire PhD candidates and MA students interested in ancient magic to assist us in compiling the list of lemmata and also to ensure complete bibliographical coverage for its lemma. We have submitted our research proposal to the Hellenic Foundation for Research and Innovation in early October 2022, requesting a total budget of about 200,000 euros to cover a period of 24 months. Unfortunately, even though our project scored highly in the assessment criteria among 117 submitted proposals in the thematic area of digital humanities, we have just heard, actually 2 days ago, that we didn't get funded. And although we are very disappointed, we are hopeful that a new opportunity will present itself soon. Any suggestion that you can provide in this respect would be gratefully received. Anticipating that the NOMINA database will constitute a useful tool for classicists, Egyptologists, papyrologists, linguists, cultural historians, historians of religion, archaeologists, as well as for students in their respective fields. I thank you for your attention and would be very happy to respond together with Sophia to any questions, suggestions, or comments you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was amazing. I would turn to the room to see if there is any immediate questions while we wait for our online audience. Megan?
Oh, hi, thank you so much for that. It was really, really interesting. You mentioned the plan to maybe link NOMINA with other sort of data sources. Which ones were you thinking of linking to?
There are many online data sources, like the Kyprianos database, led by Korsidoso, one of our team members, which explores Coptic magic. And there are other databases exploring, for example, Arabic texts, which go very much into medieval times. So we plan to use them. I can also show you other, I have noted a lot of them here. Can we go back? See? Yes. So the Campbell Bonner Magical Games database is very helpful for Vox Magicae appearing on magical gemstones. There is also the Curse Tablets database at the University of Hamburg and the other two I've already mentioned.
So, sorry, is it all right if I do a quick follow-up to that?
Yes, please.
In the design of how you've kind of been annotating your information, organizing the information, have you considered at all, have you looked into how those databases have arranged their own information
Yes.
to try and find easy routes to link?
Yes, yes. For example, we like very much the structure of the Kyprianos database, and we would like to find a way to connect with them. I think this will be very helpful. But I think there are ways to connect also with other databases. We are also going to use printed books of articles. There are many of them. People can perhaps have a PDF copy of the book and look at that by themselves, or I think we will find ways as we proceed with the work.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. We have an online question as well. Could you reuse the work done for Channel, and what kind of licensing are you planning for your database?
I'm not sure if we can reuse the work done by Setup, because Setup does not work anymore. It is a database which worked from 2013 to 2018. I'm not sure if you can. Once I managed to find the work, but then when I tried another time, I could not use it. I don't know why it doesn't work. It goes without saying that we will get the proper licensing for using any information provided from other sources.
I think the question about licensing, if I may, was just because I think this is what they meant, and this is also one other thing I wanted to ask, are you planning to license your content for other people to reuse in the future with open licenses? Because I think that's really important.
Yes.
Great.
Yes. Of course, that's the whole point of it, yes.
Any other question? Yep.
Thank you very much. That was really fascinating. I was wondering if any of these Vicus Magicae have texts that are written in sort of multiple scripts or multiple languages, and if any of them are written in multiple scripts and multiple writing systems, how you intend to annotate that, how you intend to deal with that potential problem.
Yes, that's a very good question. What we have in demotic text, for example, it's sometimes we have the vox written in demotic and closed in either Greek or Coptic above the demotic word, which is very interesting because the demotic is written without vowels, whereas Coptic or Greek is written with vowels. That's why I said we are going to have both vocalized and non-vocalized transliterations to make the interdisciplinary study of voces possible, because otherwise it would be very difficult to see which voces or similar voces appear in different scripts. And another thing which we hope to be able to understand is whether similar voces appear in different languages or scripts, which I think that's what you're interested in. Nowadays it's very difficult to find out, because each one of us knows one or two languages and we only know this material. But if we make the material open for different disciplines, I think this will change things. We hope.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any more questions? Gabby?
Yeah, I have a question about, sorry, I'll try to get where the camera seems to be. A question also about I mean, I have a question about the database as well, but I think I'll focus on the question about the voces. So it's, on the one hand, it's not surprising to hear that so many of the Vocus Magicae are words or names or at least sounds borrowed from other languages and other cultures, because that's something that's very common in magic, right? We see Egyptian scarabs used in Viking Scandinavia. We see we see texts, Phoenician texts that weren't initially magical, used as if they were magical in Roman Spain. We see all sorts of these sorts of things. But so I'm wondering if you've come across, and I know you haven't done the whole project yet, but if you've so far come across any examples of words that are borrowed from other cultures where they were already magical in the other culture.
Although I cannot think of an example now, there are, for example, Hebrew words used both in Greco-Egyptian magic and in Hebrew magic as voces. So I think if we try, we will find many more, but there are some that we know of already.
Thank you.
Maybe Sophia would like to add something to that.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm very interested precisely in that, in where we think that the words that are used as powerful words are simply code switching into Old Coptic, for example, or they are actually like words used as foreign words, as magical words. And in many cases, I think we have some from Egyptian that were used in Egyptian also, like as Panagiota said, for voces in Hebrew or Aramaic. We have the same for voces that they were used in Egyptian as magical, and they keep being used in Greek text, in like embedded in Greek text as magical too. But I wonder if they were, because these texts are used by bilingual people, if they were instead just code switching, because they at some point they find it like more effective to use the words in Egyptian. So I think it remains to be studied, I think, and look at the exact context in which we have some of those voces. Again, as Panagiota said, there's some examples where we are sure, but I think we have to look at the whole thing and explore a bit more.
Thank you. Yeah. So from that perspective, it would be more meaningful perhaps if you saw words that were Babylonian words or Hebrew words used in Greek, because that wouldn't be the same kind of code switching.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, something. Yeah.
Although it is not always easy to recognize the roots of the words. Sometimes we hear Hebrew, as Gideon Bohak wrote a very famous article, that we see Hebrew everywhere. They sound Hebrew, but it's actually nonsense, or it is a word in Hebrew.
Yeah, and then in the project that we have to translate all these handbooks, one of the questions we have is, when we get one of these like strings of voces, do we translate them into English, or do we leave them as voces, as like gibberish, or we just translate them? Because they say that, I was discussing this with Chris Faraone the other day, like we had this it was like great shy, God of all gods, but perhaps for the speaker of Greek, this sounds just like an abracadabra. So yeah, we have to like try to understand the point of view or the perception that these voces have in each case.
Okay. Any other question?
I can ask my second question.
So we have got, an online question. Wouldn't Hammond be an example of sacred in the original language and imported as magical in other languages too?
Yes, actually, sometimes Amen, we need this word in string of voces magicae, and there, when it appears in such a string, it is possible that the author of the text does not understand the word in its meaning, I mean in its original meaning, but rather considers it as a box. And when in this edition of the Greco-Egyptian magical formularies that we did with the transmission of magical language project, we leave amen untranslated as a box. So actually the basic question is, where does it appear? Does the word amen or similar words appear within a normal text, or whether they appear in a string of vocals?
Gabby?
Sure. I'll ask my database question now, if I may. Then,
I'll be able to answer that.
Well, it's obviously it's conceptual, because your database is conceptual as you're still designing it, as it were. But so I liked the way you described your database as the ability to search not only for the strings of characters with or without vocalization, also in transliteration in different languages, but also to search by language, by date, and other features. And I wondered if you were also envisaging the database as something that you could search not by the string of characters at all, but say, find me examples that are 4th century, that are in Coptic, and that are on this material, and just by by metadata only, not by text. Yeah.
I tried to. What was that before? Sorry, this yeah. I tried to show this too, so you can certainly search by date and try to find it, and search also by language. What else did you say? A language state?
Well, I mean, anything that you have in the database, really. So place, material, type of object, context.
I like that about the place. I didn't think about that, but that's also, I think it's very crucial that too. Of course, most of the papyri and come from Egypt, so that would be concentrated on Egypt, but magical gems can come from many different places, and also lamella we have from different places. So I like that too. I think we should add that to places. Materials we have, and date and language we have, but yes, I think that's a very good idea, places.
I mean, this is one of the reasons that both I and I think probably Professor Unfuk as well was quite keen on making sure that your underlying data was also available, because for all the things that your website and your database allow you to do, some people will have questions that you haven't thought of. And if they can get to your underlying database and ask new questions, that's that makes it really powerful.
While discussing the structure of the database with digital humanities experts in Leiden, they advised us to make the database as simple as possible, because this allows you to make changes if you don't complicate things. So that's the point, to keep things very simple and to include all essential information.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Do you have any info about acronyms? Because several acronyms are now sort of working on the Greek and Latin, let's say, interface. And lots of acronyms seem to be translated differently when they are sort of translated into Greek or Latin or in Egyptian or whatever. And this works magical in translation as well, as you probably know. So do you have any sort of data on that?
We intend to include acronyms in our database, and I cannot really answer how we are going to solve this problem, because this is really a major problem. The people who wrote these recipes and people who used the recipes did not understand the same things.
Exactly.
So this produces a big problem for us.
Okay.
We'll try to solve it, but I cannot say how.
Yeah, we should need to know first what they say.
Yeah, or give different explanations and maybe associate them with a specific place or a specific century. That
And
would
also they create an interface with images several times.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's not just sort of the point
Yes,
they use,
yes.
but also the fact that they create sort of the 3D image in a kind of strange way which can't be translated into a language most of the time. So it's very difficult for me as well. So that's why I'm asking.
Yes, you're very right. Acronyms were meant more to be seen than to be read.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
Just following up on Gabby's last question. So, I mean, if you put also the translation of this kind of Vocus Magicae, maybe you could do like a research based on English translation. So, like if I want to have a look at the formulae, including the word for, say, God, I can do something like this. So,
Yes,
were you
yes.
planning on?
Yes,
doing
that would also be very helpful. We thought about that. We are not very sure if it will work because the interpretations are again a major problem. We will offer interpretations, but probably there is not going to be one interpretation for each box, but more interpretations. So I think it's going to be quite problematic how to search for interpretation.
Because probably you will have to decide like one is like
Yeah.
the main interpretation,
One is the major,
and then
yes,
the other ones
yes, but even that is going to be
to be complicated,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah.
And really, you want people to be able to find all possible interpretations because,
yes.
especially with complex text like this, we're never certain. It's you basically you want your entire apparatus criticus to be open and to be the main text because everything is possible.
Will the users be able to contribute to this, or is it just a closed project that you are handling?
No, we intend to make a protocol how external researchers can add information. It's one of the stages we intend to have while creating this database because there are experts everywhere and maybe they have a better idea than us and they should do that. And even when these 2 years are over, people may want either to add new entries or change, improve the existing ones. That's the point.
Any more questions? Well, I've got a question.
Okay.
I mean, for both you and Sophia as well.
Yeah.
I was wondering, given your interest for religious and cultural history, if you could expand a little bit more on the story which these voces formulae tell about Greco-Roman Egypt, its society, population, and also the people who drafted this formula and people who are using these voces magicae, obviously in a very broader and general.
That's really a very complicated question, and maybe Sophia can answer.
You're throwing the ball at me.
Safely. What I can say is voces begin to appear in the 1st century CE. And we do have examples of some voces appearing in the pharaonic period, even in the pyramid texts, isolated cases. So the big question is why they become so popular, beginning from the 1st century and then in the 2nd century, and they come to their peak in the 3rd and 4th centuries. We don't know why this happens. It's a kind of code language. People think that they can use a different language to communicate with the gods. The gods probably understand a different language than the ordinary language that's what we believe is the cause for creating them. But we need to search more and to explain why this happens in these centuries. And I don't know, Sophia, if you have a better idea about that.
No, I can just add something like many of these bokehs appear in specific structures, in drawings, as Panagiota has shown, and also in palindromes. And there was we know that there was a peak in literacy of the general population in the 2nd century, and many of these uses were also part of school exercises, like palindromes and difficult words, difficult to pronounce, and things like that were part of like a school curriculum. And if we connect a bit this like higher literacy in general population with more frequent use of bokehs, perhaps there is something there to say. No? What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So when do they start to disappear?
They never. I mean, you still say abracadabra.
Okay, I think you mentioned
They continue to be used into the Byzantine period in Greek and in medieval magic, in Jewish magic. Into the 19th century, we have texts that contain bokehs. So
that was indeed my second question, because I think you mentioned at some point that as to coverage, you are gonna cover till the 6th century.
We need to set some limits to this project. This doesn't mean that they disappear. We set to start from their beginning in the Greco-Egyptian magical text, which is the 1st century CE, and go up to the 6th century. But if we include magical texts from other languages, let's say Hebrew or Arabic, then it really goes, there is no end.
Okay.
But this will again make things complicated for this project, which has to start and finish.
Obviously, you have to study to set boundaries. And
Yes.
I wanted to exactly to understand the rationale behind that choice, whether it was arbitrary or they simply disappeared at some point, which would have been interesting to know why, if that was the case. But
I mean, the papyri disappeared at some point, but this doesn't mean that the bokehs disappeared. They appear on other materials.
Okay. If we don't have any other questions, I think that was a great note to end on. And we can just, I would like, another round of applause for Panagiota. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And just to remember that our next seminar will be next Friday, the 16th of July. Will be with Kevin Wong from Harvard, speaking about games engine and classical antiquity. So we hope to see you there. Thank you again for joining us today. And thank you our online audience as well.
well done, Panagiota. Thank you.
Bye-bye, Sophia.
Bye.